ladies, happy Wednesday. Today is Worry-Free Wednesday, and I am so glad to have you join. It's Twanna Carter, career and anxiety coach. I work with professional women who are fed up with their anxiety holding them back, and what they want is to overcome stress and doubt so that they can get back on the fast track to advance their careers. And today on Worry-Free Wednesday, I wanted to just talk about, we had this to happen no matter how well you think things are going, and they may be going like fabulously well, but you are always fearing or dreading something going wrong, and you have dreaded and have had that fear for so long that now things aren't going right anymore. Does that sound like you? Yeah, been there, done that. It's just that sense of dread. I often have people say, there's nothing wrong, but I have so much fear of something going wrong. Other times, clients have said that there's so much drama or there's so much stress in the workplace that now they fear every day something going wrong. And I've even had people say they fear, your client said, I'm going to lose my job. I just know I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose my job. And, when we sit down and talk, there's nothing specific that's going wrong. There's nothing specific that they're doing wrong. They just have this overwhelming fear that they're going to lose their job, or it's like the other shoe is going to drop and something's going to go wrong. So if this sounds like you, what I do when I work with clients who tell me this is we do sit down and have a chat. And you say, what do you chat about? Well, we chat about different things because, of course, each lady is different, right? I know that in the past when I felt that way, I have had a lot of things piled up on my plate. And before I got one thing off my plate, there would be something else put on. Before I got another thing off my plate, I would volunteer for something else. Before I got that off my plate, someone would say, oh, you did so well, what you did is, and I volunteer for that. Before I can clear my plate again, someone else came on, oh, we can always trust you to get this done. I know you do it, to the best of your ability, and it always comes out well. And then they put something on, and then work wants something, personal life wants something, kids want something, everybody wants something. And before I know it, my plate is never been actually cleaned off. And I just have all of these projects, all of these things that have piled up. And I felt that I couldn't say no because I didn't want to disappoint anybody. I also felt that if I said, this is just too much. What am I going to do first? That some kind of way that people would see me as incompetent. And there was this fear of saying, I am overwhelmed. I just can't add another thing to my plate. I would just go, oh, sure. Yeah, sure thing. And, it would get to the point where I felt like there's one more thing you put on this plate. But all someone had to do was ask, and it was another thing put on my plate. So what am I saying? Sometimes we sit down and we chit-chat. I might chit-chat with my coachee and ask, what's on your plate? What are your responsibilities? What are the things that you like to do? What are the things that are on your plate? What are the things that are on your plate that have been there for a while? Because sometimes when you fear the other shoe dropping and something going wrong, it is because you have piled on so many things on your plate that you're fairly right to be worried that something's going wrong. Nothing's going wrong right now, but you have so many things on your plate that you fear dropping one of them and making a fool of yourself, or you're going to disappoint someone, or someone's going to see you in a light that's not positive. They're going to see you in a negative light. And so after you have all those things piled on your plate, you're constantly walking around in a state of anxiety. Is someone going to realize that I'm overwhelmed and I really can't meet all of these deadlines. I really can't do all of these things. Oftentimes, when I sit down and talk to my coaches, this is where they are. Now, sometimes professionally, they've just accepted a lot of things because they have problems saying no, and that's an issue with boundaries, and that's probably a whole nother Facebook Live when we talk about boundaries. Sometimes it's personal life. If you know, some of you have been there. If you're taking care of a parent, if you have a special needs child, if you're married, you have a couple of kids and they're at their age where they have dance, they have ballet, they have football, soccer, basketball, chorus, band, lacrosse, you name it, they're doing it. You know, your plate is always full because you're jumping from one thing to the other, trying to be sure that, you know, a kid gets picked up, they get off to the practice, you go to see them play. For some of you, it's church. You know, you're always it. You're like, tag, you're it. Because people know if they ask you to do something, they can rely on you, and you're dependable to get it done. So they continuously ask you over and over and over again, right? And so when you have professional things that have piled on your plate, and then you have personal things that have piled up on your plate, you have spiritual things that pile up on your plate, it is very easy to fear that something is going to go wrong. And oftentimes when I talk with people, because they'll come in and say, no, everything's fine, and I just don't know why I fear something going wrong, and we'll sit down and chit chat, and the next thing you know, they'll have like 50 things on their plate, and they didn't realize that those are 50 different things on their plate. And what they fear is they fear that they're overwhelmed, which they truly are, but they fear disappointing someone instead of saying, you know what, I really don't have the time, I can't do this project, you know, to the standard and level that I like to. This is probably not something else I can take on. They don't do that. They just say, yep. And I'm smiling right now because I am a recovering people pleaser. And I've got this huge smile because that's the problem that I had. I just feared saying no. I spent a lot of time seeking people's approval, but I did it by doing things for people. Always being, you know, people say, oh, but you're dependable and you're reliable and you're trustworthy. You always do such a great job. And I didn't want to come off as irresponsible. I didn't want to come off as unreliable. I didn't want to not do a good job. And I didn't have the boundaries and set. I was a people pleaser. So I just said, yep, I'll do it. Yep, I do it. But where that landed up for me was, you know, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm up trying to do things, trying to get projects done. You know, when my kids were younger, I was always, you know, my child would always be the one that get the long speech. Well, we know if we give it to her, you'll be sure she learns it. And so it wasn't until I learned to start establishing boundaries, it just became aware of all the freaking stuff that was on my plate. And finally just, you know, take a deep breath, and I still had problems saying no. So I'm going to teach you something that it's not like saying no outright, but it will buy you some time. And that's, let me think about it and look at my schedule and get back to you. That is the best thing that you can possibly do. If your life has gotten to the point where you're walking around, you're dreading something going wrong, you're afraid of something falling through the cracks, you didn't catch something, you're not going to be able to do something, you know, and if you do that self-awareness check and realize that you're saying yes to everything, yes to every project, yes to every personal project, yes to every church project, yes to every child, you know, volunteer activity, and you have problems saying no, the next best thing to saying no is, let me check my calendar and get back to you. Now, some people are pushy because they know that if they come to you, you're always going to do it. They know that. And they kind of get pushy with you. Well, I need an answer right now. And so you say, I'm sorry, I can't give you an answer right now. I do need to check my schedule. And I will get back to you. Give me a couple of hours. That's the best response. You didn't say no, and you didn't say yes. And you have to say that and be silent. Now, if they try to talk you into stuff, you just stay there and you be silent because you've already said, let me check my calendar and get back to you, and just be silent. Now, they're manipulators because, again, they're used to you just saying, oh, no problem at all, I'll get back to you. And you just keep saying, no, you don't say no, you say, I need to check my calendar and get back to you. When you're out of the position and, you're kind of out of the deer caught in headlights, time frame, then you can fashion a very nice text message, a very nice voicemail message, or a very nice email and said, I have this, and I am not able to take on another project and do it justice. You just need to get out of the moment, because if you are a people pleaser like I was, you probably scream and go, yes. Oh, I can't really take it, but yes, I'm going to do it. But the answer is you do have to start looking at your time and learning how to say no. And one of the best ways, again, to say no is, let me check my schedule and get back to you. Give me about 2 hours to give you back, and if you're going to be in meetings 3 hours, don't go give me 3 hours because you're going to be in meetings. But you say, let me call you early afternoon and let me get back with you first thing in the morning. But give yourself that time schedule. Then that's like for you to stop taking on so many things. Then you need to be honest with yourself and sit down and write everything that is on your plate. What are you responsible for? What are you held accountable for? You want to separate things out into their importance. You want to separate family from work because family has different priorities. Work has different priorities, And list out everything that you're responsible for that you're held to doing. And then what I like to tell my clients is, we talk about the circle of influence and the circle of concern. Things that are in your circle of influence, you have direct influence. What you do can affect the outcome. Things that are in your circle of concern, you can be concerned about them, but you have no control. Make sure that you are not spending all of your energy and time in your circle of concern. You can't control them. Things in your circle of concern are not controllable. Now, I like to give, the example that I'm very concerned about global warming and about pollution. And so I do not pollute. It just really, really irks me when I see people toss things out the window. So how I handle that is I don't pollute. Now, it's a concern, and I understand that my, decision not to pollute globally, overall, it does help a teeny tiny bit, but I can't spend all of my energy and my time on the pollution thing, right? That's not the best use of my energy. I contribute what I can, and of course, I raise my kids to have those same beliefs, but that's a concern, right? Now, if you've got 10 projects and your supervisor has told you that if you don't get project A done, you're going to lose your job, well, that's in your circle of influence all day long. Circle of influence. If I don't get this project done, my boss is going to fire me. That would make that in your circle of influence, and that's a priority. That's a really good way, a circle of concern versus circle of influence. That's a really great way for you to figure out how to start figuring out what's a priority. Because what you may find is a lot of things that people have piled on you because you're always dependable and you're always reliable and I know you'll get it done. A lot of those things are not necessarily in your circle of influence. And you can, depending on how you feel about it, certainly stop taking the extra stuff, but start taking a look at what's on your plate and seeing what you can say. I think, it would be best served if I did pull out of this because I'm not going to get to it. Or if you're going to get to it and you can negotiate a time, I can't get to it now, but in 3 weeks' time, I can do X, Y, Z. Those types of things are very helpful. But overall, what you want to do is you want to figure out what is on your plate. Because there's a reason why you feel like the other shoe is going to drop. There's a reason why you fear something going wrong. And so in this instance, your anxiety is telling you, there's something somewhere something's not kosher, something's not going right. And I like to start clients with becoming self-aware. What priorities and projects do you have professionally and personally, right? And then I like to teach clients how to say no. Because if you're a people pleaser, like I am a recovery people pleaser, it's difficult to say no. And if you are reliable and dependable, people like to pile things on you because it gets it off their plate. It is one less thing they have to be bothered with, and they just kind of bug you to do it. So learn how to say no. Give yourself space by going, let me check my schedule and get back with you in a couple of hours. It gives you space to get away from that person, because some people are manipulative. They understand if they pressure you a little bit, and people know people pleasers. They know who the people pleasers in their life are, and they know that if they ask you every time you're going to do it, so you want to change that expectation by saying, let me get back with you. Put some time and space in there, and then craft a nice email or voicemail or text message and say, no, I've checked my schedule, I have this many projects, and I'm not going to be able to fit that in, and do it to the level of standards that you want, right? And the other thing is start putting tasks, figure out in your life what's in your circle of influence and what's in your circle of concern, and tease through what's in your circle of influence, and be sure it's under your influence, meaning you can affect it, you can affect change. A lot of us waste time and energy working in our circle of concern with things we can't concern. We have no power to change it. We have no authority to change it, but we'll spend a lot of time, effort, and energy there. Make sure that you're spending time, effort, and energy in your circle of influence. And again, I talked about global warming. I like to do my part. I don't litter, turn off the lights when I'm not using it. And I understand that it does help, but on a large scale, I understand that that's not going to solve global warming by me doing those things. It's important for me to do it in incrementally, teeny tiny. It's a concern because it will affect it if enough of us get together and do it. But individually, I can't shut off global warming by doing that. Versus, your boss coming in saying, this project doesn't get done, we don't get this customer to say yes, you've lost your job. The second one is party. That's in your circle of influence. Global warming is in your circle of concern. You can't do a whole lot to change it. You can do incrementally small things, but collectively we all have to do something to change it. But you individually won't be able to change it. So that's the difference between circle of concern and circle of influence. Unless, of course, you're working in an environment as an environmentalist, then your job is in your circle of influence. And so that's kind of the difference here. I hope you understand that. So that is my truth to you on Worry Free Wednesday. We're talking about trying to reduce anxiety, especially when you fear something going wrong, even if you think everything's going right. And again, talk about what is on your plate, what's in your circle of influence, what's in your circle of concern, and you should be spending most of your energy and time on what's in your circle of influence, because that's what you have control over, right? So, if you have found this helpful, give me a thumbs up. And I do want to thank you for tuning in, as well those of